To order. It is 5:30. It's good to see everyone with us this afternoon. We've not talked to Councilman Terrell, so he may come in just a few minutes. He's been a little bit under the weather, so he may not, but we do have a quorum, so we will move forward. We do have our agendas on the podium back here. If anyone would like to grab one and follow along with us, you're certainly welcome to. We've got a lot of business to cover tonight for the City of Tifton. Our first order of business is the zoning public hearing. So Rob, I'll turn everything over to you to start those public hearings.
First, I'd like to let everybody know that the City of Tifton's written policy hearing procedures, City of Tifton standard for exercising zoning powers, and a copy of the Georgia Conflict of Interest laws available as a handout. It's also posted on our website for review. The first matter that we have under consideration tonight is the zoning application PP21-0039. It's an application by Davis Design and Development LLC requesting to amend the plan unit overlay for the Mill Ridge subdivision that was originally established in 2006. This applicant is requesting to amend the approved site plan to modify 9 parcels originally planned for single-family residential units to duplexes. The tracks that are going to be involved is 0032E196, 0032E197, 0032E198, 0032E138, 0032E139, 0032E140, 0032E141, 0032E142, and 0032E143. At this time, I'd like to ask the conflict questions to council. Has any of these applicants or opponents to the application contributed at least $250 to any of the campaigns for election during the past 2 years?
No.
Do you or any members of your family have a property interest that would be affected by the proposed rezoning and reclassification of the property, whether there's a positive or negative impact?
No.
Do you or any members of your family have a financial interest in any business entity that has a property interest in any real property that would be affected by the proposed rezoning or reclassification of the property, whether there's a positive or negative impact?
No.
At this time, I'd like to ask Crystal Gaillard with our Department of Community Development if you would just get up and give an overview of what this proposed application addresses.
First, I'd like to start with, unfortunately, for the past 3 meetings, we've not been able to have a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to discuss this item that comes before you tonight. So just a reminder that when the citizens get to speak, this is the first time they will have been able to voice concerns about this matter. I just thought it was important that we all know and understand that. On September 13th, 2021, this was when the item was originally scheduled to be heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we weren't able to have a quorum, and we were unable to discuss the matter. We tried again on September 27th. We had a special called meeting, but unfortunately we were unable to meet due to lack of quorum again. And then again, we tried on October 11th, 2021, but we were unable to make a quorum again. And under our ordinances, if you are unable to make a quorum on 2 regularly scheduled meetings, the item can go forth to council. So that's where we are tonight. This has not been vetted by the Planning and Zoning Commission. It's been vetted by Planning and Zoning staff, but not the commission themselves. So this is the first public meeting where this item has been discussed. So as Rob mentioned, the applicant, Davis Design and Development, is requesting to modify the plan development overlay to change from single-family residential on 9 parcels on 2 separate streets. 3 are on Planters Row, and the other 6 are on Mill Ridge Circle. Mill Ridge Circle, if you are familiar, is unfinished. It stops kind of at the bend. I know that's a really scientific term, but the road has not been completed down to the leasing office, and that's really where we're talking about right now, the undeveloped property on those 6. Now, of course, Planters Row has been developed, and those 3 are located there. But in a planned development overlay, we really use these to mix a bunch of different uses which are really compatible together. Without the overlay, they would not have been allowed together. Say if this whole parcel was multifamily, it would all be multifamily, and there wouldn't be the ability to do commercial at the front on the windmill side. So this is where we mix a whole bunch of different uses: single family, multifamily, commercial uses. This is really what planned development overlays are designed for, is the different uses. So originally this planned development overlay was adopted in 2006, and all of these parcels were identified and laid out to be single family residential. That's why we come before you today, is because they are requesting to update this site plan for those to be considered commercial in 2 weeks when you decide on this. But that's why we stand before you. Want to go over just a couple of items since we didn't get to hold a Planning and Zoning Commission. Go over just a couple of details that I think are really relevant that we bring out. This is consistent with the comprehensive plan. This is the transitional suburban area. So these are the areas that are just outside of the core, but are a good mix of medium density housing along with commercial development. So I don't see that the proposal is outside of the consistency with the comprehensive plan. This is one of the first things that we evaluate when an application comes in before it's even submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission for review. We go ahead and do our internal staff review of it to make sure that it is eligible to push through. So on each one, we do a staff analysis, and we go through a series of questions, like every community does, to gather whether this is a legal, acceptable application for the Planning and Zoning Commission and yourselves to review. So I wanted to go over just a couple of those things with you today. Does the existing zoning negatively impact the value of the property? So this is one that in our office, we kind of harp on this one a lot. We really look at all of the evidence and the research on this. I don't believe the existing zoning as it is right now negatively affects the property. Those being single family residential, I think that is a fine use of the land. Does the existing zoning promote the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the public? Absolutely. And what hardship does the existing zoning put on the property owner? None. I want to just reiterate this. However, the approved site plan does not allow for duplexes. So again, that's why we're here tonight. We're just looking at if it is your pleasure to allow duplexes on a planned development overlay where single-family residential use was what the council wanted back in 2006. Again, this was updated twice since then. It was updated in 2014 to allow for the leasing office at the front of the development. And again, in 2018, Mr. Todd Buckner asked that 2 of the single-family residential lots be updated for him to continue his duplexes on Oak Point Avenue closer to the leasing office. It was updated in 2018. So been updated twice before, and this would be the 3rd one. Rob?
All right, at this time, is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of the application?
I mean, am I supposed to say in favor? Am I going to say? Okay.
All right, sir, if you would just state your name and where you live.
All right, I'm Cole Davis. I live in Hayhire, Georgia. It's my first time doing this. If I get to stutter, don't laugh too bad at me. The thought process behind what we're trying to do is I just want to continue the duplexes that wrap around on, it'll be Oak Point Avenue, but turns on Planters Row for the 3 lots that we have there. I believe that'll serve us as a good commercial buffer for what the property is in front. If we're able to get this passed for the Mill Ridge Circle Road to be able to develop that, I believe that on the side that's going to back up to the high-density apartments, which I'm not sure what the name of that is, the Tifton Housing right there, I believe that's better serviced as a buffer and also a little bit better than single-family residential selling homes. If we are able to do that, then that will allow us to be able to do 16 total projects there, 6 duplexes, 10 residential houses, of which also, I mean, I'm going to be building the 10 of the single-family housing across the street, so I have a vested interest or vested interest in building something that's tasteful and architecturally, design-wise, something that carries over what we've already done in the neighborhood. Again, we have an upwards of 7 duplexes already on Oak Point Avenue, and again, she mentioned that it's already been changed twice. If we're able to do the Mill Ridge Circle and continue that around to Oak Point Avenue, that'll be an additional $2.1 million in tax assessed value. If we're able to do those 16 projects, and with the 3 on Planters Row, that's going to be 2.679 of assessed value. Again, I haven't, because we didn't have the planning and zoning, I really don't have any answers to any questions or any problems that anybody might have with the project that I'm doing. So I'm kind of blind as far as if anybody has anything they don't like about it or any questions I can answer. I don't know how that process would work after this. If I'm asked something, like, again, I don't really know outside of what we're saying now, you know, what I'm supposed to be, or if there's anything that I can adequately answer for anybody. I plan on doing, just a few things, run through the list. I plan on letting a local company here do the management of it. You know, again, we're talking about 9 total structures. I would probably use Advantage Realty for that. You know, we plan on doing full landscaping all the way on all the structures that we're doing. Again, I've built in the home with the single-family homes I've built kind of hardy board siding and things along those lines, concrete siding in the homes. I plan on kind of carrying over exactly what I've done on my single-family homes into the duplexes to have the same architectural design. You know, we're going to be consistent with what's already there as far as for duplex renting, with what we're going to ask for rent. I know a little bit of mention has been brought up to the fact that Planters Row is the only access into the, or is a access that a lot of the neighborhood uses to be able to get in there to their homes, and I understand that. The duplexes I would be doing would all have 2-story, would all have 2-car garages on them the same way a single-family house would, and adequate driveway parking the same way a single-family house would. So I don't anticipate any problems with parking in the street that wouldn't already have a chance of occurring with single-family homes. Again, like I said, without having anything or anything that's been brought up of any questions I can answer for anybody in the neighborhood, that's pretty much all I have.
Mayor Council, you know, generally in planning and zoning, we have a little bit of, you know, give and take as far as, you know, if you have questions that come up before council while Mr. Davis is here, or any of the opposition that may be here. So I'd like to give a little bit of latitude to both sides so that this can be fully vetted and have any questions answered. Give Mr. Davis an opportunity to respond, or, you know, any issues that you may see while he's here. And same thing for any opposition that may want to speak. You have questions of them as well. Again, generally in planning and zoning, it's a little bit more of a give and take because of unique circumstances. I like to, you know, allow Mr. Davis and the opposition some latitude to try to respond to council if you got questions about the project.
I have a question. you bring up Advantage Realty, and I am a co-owner in Advantage Realty.
Okay, I
Do
did.
you have a contract with Advantage Realty at
No,
all?
ma'am, I don't have a contract. I know that it was brought up, a little bit of what I'd heard is a concern about, how would the management be? Who would we talk to if there was tenants parking on the road? Who would we talk to if there is loud music? Who would we do these things? And to try to, I guess, ease the,
Yeah, I just want to be very above board that I am not.
okay, I didn't know that. I'm
Yes,
sorry. I
okay,
apologize. I
yeah.
didn't mean to put you in that
So
position.
I don't know how to disclose that, other than to disclose it, and that I'm not aware of any contract, so I'm just.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
contract that's been signed. My attempt to do that was just to
Yeah.
say that I would want to use a local reputable company that does that, and that way everybody in the neighborhood knows that if there is any problems or any concerns, that they have a company they can call to address it, and not, something that somebody's just trying to run themselves and maybe not doing it at such a high level.
I just want to make sure that there's
Okay.
no, just.
Yeah, there's no contract. There's been nothing been signed except for, I know that's a local company here in town that I would be interested in using. Okay, thank you.
Just say something, Nicole, do you mind? Thank you for investing in Tifton and building homes, and we appreciate it very much. And I wanted to ask, the material that is on the streets, like on Millway, like the pallets of bricks, is that yours?
It's overflow from jobs sometimes. A lot of times vendors in between items where they can come and pick it up with forklifts and things like that, that they do get set in awkward areas. I know that was brought up to me a couple weeks ago to get done. Unfortunately, with trucking, and it's not something that I can just go pick up. I don't have the machinery to be able to pick it up with pallets and to go, but I do know there are things like that that need to be picked up around the neighborhood. Yes, sir.
Just if you could do us a favor, and again, we're here for a separate topic, but it's a conversation. If you just help us keep the roads.
Absolutely.
Clean, and then the sites clean with all the debris, so we don't have to have code enforcement go out there. That'd be great. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir. And a lot of times, I'll say as a response to that, it is a new construction job site, and unfortunately, with trash cans and stuff like that, they are hard to keep clean, wind, storms, and stuff like that, but we'll do what we can. Thank you very much.
All right, is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of the application? All right, is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this application? All right, if you would, just one at a time, just come up and state your name and where you live, and address council.
I guess I'll go first. May I take my mask off? My name is Dr. Joseph Knoll. I live at 139 Millridge. Good evening, Mayor Smith, members of the City Council. Thank you for taking the time tonight to listen to our concerns. I am here to voice my strong opposition to this rezoning application for Millridge subdivision. I want to give you a little background here. We purchased our home on 139 Millridge back in 2013 when there was about maybe a dozen houses in this subdivision. Our home came with a lovely view of the Georgia Power substation, and Millridge Circle literally ended right in front of our house in a big muddy mess. Given the lack of available single-family homes in Tifton, which is still an issue today, this was the best option for our family. I'll admit, we were apprehensive about buying a property in an incomplete subdivision, having no idea what might be built right next to us or just down the street. We were relieved to learn that this neighborhood is protected by covenants, a contract which states what can and cannot be built within the platted portion of this development, which includes Millridge Circle. The first rule in the covenants states, "No building shall be constructed, erected, placed, altered, or permitted to remain on any lot other than one detached single-family dwelling." The original plan for this mixed-use development, as described in the PDO, was actually well thought out. It has multifamily residences, the duplexes you mentioned, grouped together with similar structures, and single-family homes grouped together, forming a cohesive neighborhood. However, the building of Millridge subdivision has been poorly executed, constructed piecemeal, resulting in a series of unnecessary headaches for neighborhood residents. For example, there was a time that contractors came and dug up half my sidewalk and some of my bushes to put in a sewer that should have already been there. There was a time AT&T threatened to dig up one of my trees to run a cable, and then PlantTel had to come out and run a cable too. And again, all of this should have been done before sod was laid and the house put on the market. And I bring this up, I'm not the only homeowner that has dealt with issues in this neighborhood. And I bring this up just to say that this rezoning application is yet one more problem in this neighborhood when all we want is our neighborhood to be constructed what we bought into as envisioned in the original PDO. Recently, things started to trend in the right direction. We finally got some street lights installed where exposed cables had been sticking out of the ground, and the vacant lots have finally started filling in with single-family homes as called for in the original plan. Just when it seems like the hot mess is starting to cool down, an application has been filed to build duplexes on lots not platted for them in violation of the covenants in the original plan for the development. Duplexes built within the platted area of the subdivision would have a detrimental effect on homeowners' property values and the covenants which were put in place to protect. All property owners in the subdivision are bound to follow these covenants. For the city to exempt one individual from following them would set a bad precedent for this and future developments within the city. In addition, the homes being built by the applicant in Mill Ridge appear to be selling almost as quickly as they are being built, which suggests that there is a high demand in Tifton for single-family residences. It makes little sense to build more multifamily structures in Tifton when there's clearly demand for single-family homes. I'm not against having renters in my neighborhood. I rented for 13 years. And while the lots in question may not be the most desirable in the neighborhood, they look out at apartments rather than a substation. The original planner determined them suitable for single-family homes, or they would not have been platted as such. Single-family homes on these lots could be rented out if for some reason they don't sell, and this would not violate the covenants, it would not be inconsistent with the original PDO. I would ask the applicant to consider this. Lastly, I want to address the 3 duplexes that want to be built on the very short section of Planters Row and Oak Point. This is, as was mentioned, this would lead to an undesirable traffic flow and undesirable parking situation. Planters Row is currently the only entrance to the subdivision that's not already cluttered with cars. The streets in this neighborhood are narrow. They were never intended to handle this much traffic, this much parking. Ideally, I'd love to see these lots left as community green space to benefit the whole neighborhood, but that's probably not possible. But they should at least be left for single-family residences. That'd be half the number of cars. That would limit the amount of traffic and parking and keep an entrance open in case of emergencies. And I want to conclude by saying we could have purchased a home in the county or some other town, but we chose to purchase our home within the city limits of Tifton because we felt that our investment and our quality of life would be protected by strong city ordinances and good leadership. I hope that we were correct in our judgment. Despite our neighborhood's challenges, we have made Tifton our home. We care about this community. We vote in this community. And I ask you to do the right thing for the residents of Mill Ridge and deny this rezoning application. Thank you.
Dr. Julie Lester, 139 Mill Ridge Circle, Tifton. First of all, I would like to thank the mayor and other members of the city council and the employees of the city of Tifton for your service and work on these challenging issues. As you know, I used to be on the planning and zoning board, so I saw a lot of these applications, and I know it is very difficult to make these decisions with the various stakeholders involved. As my husband said, our household is in opposition to this project. We have numerous questions and concerns that we hoped would have been addressed at a public hearing before the Planning and Zoning Commission, but as we've discussed earlier, that just did not happen. We did submit documentation to that board, and also I sent you all an email a couple of months ago, it seems like, about our concerns. So hopefully you had an opportunity, or we'll have an opportunity to read that document in that email. It has a long list of concerns, not just about this application, but some of the concerns about other issues in the neighborhood as well, such as the ability to safely access the neighborhood for multiple entrances and move throughout the neighborhood safely, not just for vehicles, but pedestrians. I'm a big walker and a cyclist, and it's very difficult to move through the neighborhood sometimes because of the lack of sidewalks on many streets, and just general quality of life issues. We would be happy at any time to engage in a deeper conversation about this project and discuss potential alternatives to consider to this application, such as single-family homes as rental homes. As the city's website states, Tifton offers a wonderful lifestyle for young professionals, families, and senior citizens. And we do firmly believe in that. That's why we put roots down in Tifton. Those of you that know me, I had a lot of other options for where I should live because of my job. But we chose Tifton because we like Tifton, and I'll say we love Tifton at this point. We've put down these roots. Both my husband and I have volunteered on city and county boards for several years in the past. So as the city works to attract new residents, it has to be mindful of available residential options. We know that cities need a mix of housing. As he brought up, we were renters for several years. But when you look at the data for Tifton and compare us to even Tift County, the state of Georgia, and the United States as a whole, it's really concerning to see that we're flip-flopped when you look at the census data as far as owner-occupied versus renter-occupied. Opportunities for homeownership are important because they create neighborhood and community stability and promote generational wealth. There's a demonstrated need for single-family homes in Tifton and Tift County, and really the country as a whole. In fact, as you may know, the project applicant has applied for over 20 new single-family home building permits in this neighborhood since 2020, basically the start of COVID. We know we cannot create new land. That's not an option. We know the challenges of annexation. In whose best interest is it to take single-family home sites in a covenant-protected subdivision out of that use when we already have a large number of multifamily residences developed or planned within the city? In that document I sent to Planning and Zoning, I actually have a list of all the apartments in basically a couple of miles from our neighborhood. If this application is approved, we also wonder what precedent will be set for this neighborhood and other future developments. Our house in Mill Ridge is the first house we purchased, and it was our intention for it to be the last. While our subdivision cannot tout the most amazing views in the city, there are a variety of other amenities that have been attractive to homebuyers. Again, look at the recent boom in construction in the neighborhood. As you know, purchasing a house is a big task, and we did our research, or at least we thought we did. Every property owner in the neighborhood, whether they live there or not, would have made a purchasing decision based on the existing PDO and covenants for the subdivision. We were aware of the mixed-use nature of the development, but we understood that there would be protections in place for the single-family homes in the platted and covenant-protected Mill Ridge subdivision. While this neighborhood has presented challenges to us and the city throughout the years, we do believe that the original intent was thoughtful in protecting future homeowners in Mill Ridge by setting forth requirements for single-family homes in the platted and covenant-protected subdivision. As the neighborhood is becoming more stable, why would anyone want to take a risk on that stability and create a host of new issues for homeowners, other residents, and the city? Again, I would ask, what precedent are we setting for this subdivision and future development if this application is approved? Growth can be good, we know that, but only smart growth. And as submitted, we do not believe this application supports that. Please take into consideration the concerns of the homeowners in this neighborhood that are residents and taxpayers of the city you represent. Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition to the application?
Good evening. My name is Michelle Harris, and this is my husband, Tim Harris, and we reside at 145 Mill Ridge Circle. We purchased our home in April of 2020 with the understanding that it was going to be a residential area with protected covenants. We were told that the very front block would be possibly residential at some point, but there would not be any other homes added like the duplexes. Our main concerns are, since we live there, the cars that are already in the duplexes that are on Oak Point, they park in the street. You cannot navigate through. You have to go into the other lane to get through. Two cars can't come down the road at the same time. It's very compact. There's only one way into our subdivision, and this is where they're asking to put the duplexes again, which is going to cause additional congestion, and you won't be able to get in and out like you should. The other thing is more traffic, more safety issues, the noise, as well as a reduction in our property values. In my history, I work at Coons Real Estate, and I do property management there. And it is my witness, I can witness to this, that people that own their property tend to take better care of their property than people that rent other people's properties. And we just ask that we don't want the value of our property to be decreased based on someone who does not live there, owns the property that lives there, that for someone that's actually renting the property. And we also moved to Tifton, like I said, in April of 2020. We could have moved anywhere between Abbeville and Tifton, but we chose Tifton because of the reputation, and we fell in love with the people here. So we ask that you decline this application and protect our neighborhood.
And I don't think I can say anything else that hasn't been said, other than I have experience. Early in the morning, 7:30, you need to pull out on, what's the road?
Oak Point.
Whidden Mill Road. Annabelle Clark traffic is way down there, okay, so it's really, really bad. It's just gonna add to traffic problems. If you go the other way, if you go back towards Carpenter Road, you take what I call the shortcut. Mr. Davis, we have to avoid those bricks every day. Those have not been moved since we've been here, and it's become a problem. People that own the single house, they park in their driveways and their double carports. I have seen it over and over. The people that are in the duplexes, they park out in the street. They use their two-car garage. They use it for storage. And I mean, I almost had a serious accident the other day. I turned into the sun, and the sheriff's deputy's car and another car is parked in the road, and I'm blinded, and here comes a car coming at me 90 miles. I mean, it's a problem on a bicycle. I ride a bicycle a lot. It's a problem with driving, and adding more duplexes is just gonna, you can say what you want, it's gonna lower your property value. And I would ask every one of you council, if the opportunity came up across from your house, and we live right at the end of Planters Road, if the property come up in your house, would you want to approve this or not? I want to make it personal, because it's really, really personal to me. And we love Tifton. I'm an employee at Tift Area Academy. Been here for 5 years. We are newlyweds, and we never saw this coming. The sign was very small. It got blown over until my good neighbor here come down and told me we had no idea about this. We were totally blindsided. But yes, I am very upset about this situation. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition to this application? Mayor and Council, as I stated earlier, I think because this is not on the planning and zoning, I just, if Council might have any questions of any of these individuals that have spoken, I'll leave that open to y'all.
Okay. Gentlemen, any questions? I don't think we do, Rob. I think we've got the information we need.
Remember to ask this public hearing be closed.
Yes, please.
The next public hearing that we have on the agenda tonight is zoning application PP 21-0042. And this is concerning a text amendment to the City of Tifton Land Development Code to add a section related to the standards for solar farm arrays. Mayor and Council, as you all are aware, that we've had some annexation rezoning requests. And so I'll let Crystal address this. This was something that staff thought it would be a good idea, in the event other, solar farms come in seeking to rezone property, that we have something on the books that would be applicable to all. So I'll ask this, Crystal, if you'll just come up and explain to the council what the provisions basically are, an overview of this particular ordinance.
Thanks, Rob. In our department, when we get a permit application, the first thing that we do is we check and we see what the zoning is. So if somebody walks into our office right now and they say, I want to do a solar farm, We take in their application and we look and we say, okay, well, you're on suburban agriculture. That's what your zoning is. You technically can do it. Right now, as it stands, we have 0 standards on solar. They can build a 100-acre one, a 5-acre one, a 2-acre solar development. They can be 15 feet tall, 25 feet tall in panels. They can do really anything that they'd like because we have no standards right now. So the only thing that we can check at our office is it a suburban agricultural use? And do they meet their setbacks in suburban ag? And that's really the only 2 things that we can really check in our office. You know, a lot of things in our city we have standards: event halls, banquet centers, tattoo parlors. Really everything has standards, and that's really what sets us apart from other communities and keeps our developments really tasteful in nature, and we really protect the values of the homeowners within the city. So we come to you before you tonight with standards that we are proposing for solar development uses. Now, we don't have a whole lot of suburban agricultural tracts in the city. I'd say we have less than 20. We are a city, not a county, so we are not heavily agricultural, but we do have, you know, about less than 20 that if somebody came today, we'd have to let them do whatever they're proposing because we don't have standards in place. So I want to go over with you a couple that we are proposing and kind of get your thoughts when we get to that section, but definitely want to get the public's thoughts on the development or the standards that we're proposing. So the maximum lot size we're proposing at 15 acres. So the city is not, you know, very expansive in terms of land. Really don't want 100, 200 acre tracts of solar. I'm sure a lot of folks have seen on I-75 going northbound in Houston County what that development looks like, and I don't believe from a planning and zoning standpoint that would look very great in the city of Tifton. So we're proposing the maximum at 15 acres with setbacks at 50 feet from all property lines. So whether they're adjacent to residential, they're adjacent to wholesale light industrial, you got 50 feet on all sides in terms of setbacks. Maximum panel height at whatever tilt, whether it's tilt up at this time of day or tilt down at this time of day, at 15 feet. We will require, if this ordinance passes, a security fence that's a minimum of 6 feet in height with a locking gate and high voltage warning signs on each side. We would require a buffer of 10 feet, a vegetative buffer of 10 feet along the entire outer perimeter with a minimum height of 10 feet within 5 years of planting. Maintenance. We have a section in the ordinance that the development must be maintained as required under International Property Maintenance Code, and if it's not maintained, the series of measures that the city is allowed to do in order to get it in compliance. And we also require a decommissioning plan. I know with the most recent solar applications that we had, decommissioning became a big topic of discussion. So we wanted to make sure some of these solar developments are for 30, 40, 50 years, and we want to make sure that we're practicing good planning by requiring these developers on the front end to think about taking down these panels on the back end. So we require the decommissioning plan, and in the ordinance, it's got everything that should be contained in that decommissioning plan. And then with all of these standards, if somebody came to our office and they said, I want to put a solar farm right here, then we would go back to this ordinance and we'd say, well, turns out you're wanting to do 30 and we can only allow 15 in the city of Tifton. We're going to need you to scale it back. We can really go back and forth with these and make sure that they're tasteful developments. Again, we weren't able to run this by Planning and Zoning Commission. We weren't able to make a quorum at the last 3 meetings. So this is the first time that the public may have heard about this and had a chance to respond to this, and you guys as well. And one last thing. So wanted to go over, this gets easily confused, but why the solar development that we've been hearing from, and we've been to you 6 or 7 times over the past 8 months, why you heard from that one, but you maybe won't have heard from any other ones, is they were wanting to annex into the city. And with that annexation comes a rezone. So with that rezone, you, City Council, got to determine whether you wanted to rezone it, and you could put conditions on that one development. Now, anybody that's already in the city, that's on a suburban agricultural tract, they would not have to go before mayor and council, so you would not get to put individual conditions on it. These would be your conditions for all solar development. So just wanted to make sure that was understood. Thanks.
Anyone here like to speak in favor of this application by the city for this text amendment? Anyone here like to speak in opposition to the text amendment? Mayor, I ask this public hearing be closed. Just as a point of information on, since this is the first public hearing on the Mill Ridge subdivision, this is on the council's workshop for discussion tonight, and then it will be put on the agenda for the regular meeting in 2 weeks. It'll be voted on at that time. So this is the workshop for discussion. It'll be voted on in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you, Rob. All right, we will now begin our council workshop, and as Rob said, the items that we'll be discussing tonight on our agenda, we will not be voting on. With the workshop, we merely discuss and gather information, and it gives us time to get more information if we need it for our vote, which will happen in 2 weeks. So we have the agenda that's been presented. I've called the meeting to order. We've concluded our zoning public hearing, so I will need, the only thing that we will be voting on tonight is the approval of the agenda. So you have that before you. So we have a motion from MJ. Is there a second? Second from Jack. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Our first order of business is we do have some new board members to swear in. So gentlemen, thank you for agreeing to serve. If you will meet me down front here, I'm going to bring the paperwork with me and ask you all to join me together, and I will swear you into the Planning and Zoning Commission. All right, Jonathan. You're not Jonathan, you're Stephen. Sorry about that. Is this where you would like for us to be? Are we good?
Go behind that way just a little bit.
Back here?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, can you see these folks? I don't care if you see me, I want you to see them.
They're behind the pole right now, so they can come this way.
So y'all come this way. We have a YouTube channel that all of our council meetings are on, and so we want your smiling faces under your mask, or not under your mask, as it may be, on that channel. So are you good? Can you see them now, Stephen? Jarrett? No, get up here just a little bit closer. Just come stand by me. There we go. Okay, gentlemen. I'm going to read the oath of office, and following the oath of office, if you will, each affirm, and then I will give these papers back to Jessica. She will have you sign them. I've already signed them. So again, we really do appreciate your service to our community, and thank you for that. So the oath of office says, do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will faithfully and impartially perform the duties as a member of the Tifton Planning and Zoning Board of this city, and that you will support and defend the Charter of the City of Tifton, as well as the Constitution and laws of the state of Georgia and of the United States of America? Let me deviate from the script. Please read the Charter of the City of Tifton. I know you've read it. Having served on council. You can find that on our city website. There's a wealth of information there about how the city operates, what your roles are as board members, and what our roles are as mayor and council and city management and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of good information, so please read that city charter. For going on with the oath of office, that you will attend all meetings of the body to which you are being appointed unless providentially hindered, that you will abide by the standards for conflicts of interest adopted by the City Council and the rules of disclosure applicable thereto, that unless disqualified by the standards for conflicts of interest, you will actively participate in all discussions and decisions of the body to which you are being appointed, and that you shall attend at city expense any training mandated by the state of Georgia and attend as scheduled any special training arranged by the City of Tifton. Do you affirm?
Yes, I affirm.
Do you affirm? Do you affirm? Thank you. Gentlemen, you are now members of the City of Tifton Planning and Zoning Commission. So thank you very much. So you get up there. I'm going to. Thank y'all very much. We appreciate your Left my pen down. Jessica, will you? I left that pen. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. So we have 3 new board members on planning and zoning. That's a good thing. All right, under new business, we are now ready to discuss and review the rezoning application. So, Rob, is there anything you or Pete need to share with us before we open up the floor for discussion on the request for the change?
No, ma'am.
All right, gentlemen, any comments you'd like to make, or?
Yeah, that is my district, and so that I can attest to everything that's been said as far as the traffic, and I ride through there quite often just checking to see what's what, and that traffic is horrendous. Cars are parked there and that kind of, it's terrible. I've been very clear over the last 6 years about changing zoning. Once someone purchases their house, they don't want to see the zoning next to it change. They might not have bought it. So that's, it's cut and dried to me. You've got zoning in place. All these people have bought their houses, single family houses, in my view, for this neighborhood, the way to go, and put duplexes there, do exactly like they say, and I see no reason to. We've got enough rentals as far as that. Like I said, there's apartments here and there, and these people that have purchased these houses shouldn't be subjected to having more duplexes, period.
Okay. All right, any other comments, feedback, questions, Pete?
Mayor, I'll just add, I asked Mr. Davis about pallet breaks, and again, we sometimes have to be alerted to, but over the years, there's been so many interruptions on this subdivision when Mr. Johnson had it and it was taken over. So that's part of our process, and we need to do a better job with that. So I'm going to ask Crystal to make it our business. We've got to clean up the empty lots. The litter has to be taken obviously under consideration. The stuff in the streets have to be moved. So I'm going to ask her to put some emphasis on that for the residents in Mill Ridge, and it's just enough's enough. So we're going to step in on the aesthetics and making that neighborhood believe in us again, and that's our job.
Right.
But that's something that has to be done.
Right.
So we're going to do that quickly. I know it just, and Crystal and I talked. We've got another issue right down the street, not in that subdivision. It just does seem, people get so frustrated that government goes so slow, anything done. Like 30 days, can all this be cleaned up one way or the other?
Okay. All right, any other questions or comments or ideas? Thank you, Jack. I appreciate your input on that, and certainly don't disagree with you on that. So, thank you for that. All right. If there's no further discussion on that zoning application, we'll move on to reviewing the application on the proposed text amendment for the solar farms. Any comments, gentlemen, concerning that, or questions of Crystal? I think we're good on that. So, y'all good? Move forward. Okay. All right, let's talk about the proposed ordinance and requirement for package stores. Tomorrow is election day, so just a reminder.
One second.
Yes, yes.
Just on that other, I guess it's the buffer, that there's buffers and then there's buffers. And I can appreciate a 10-foot along the entire outer perimeter. Is there a depth?
Yes,
Kind of.
I believe it's 2 rows of planting. It's not a specific depth, but it's 2 rows of planting.
Okay.
So 2 sets of plants.
Do we? Okay. Do we think 2 is enough? Have we looked at others? It's that's how you. I guess I would just ask you to double check, be sure that that's a big piece to that.
I don't know, Crystal, you bring up a good point. Is there anything, do we have like a suggested list of plant material
We do not.
that would be appropriate for that? For example, Leland cypress or something along those lines that would be, full and accomplish the goal. That's a good point, Jack,
I
too.
don't think it's a bad idea. I do remember on the last solar farm that came in here, Planning and Zoning Commission, the applicant proposed elaeagnus, and
I want it where you can't see it. Now, whether that's double or 8 feet, this Ely Agnes thing, I would direct you to a house I lived on at Pebblebrook that has Ely Agnes, and I'm here to tell you, you can't see through that. It was built for a purpose where you wouldn't see the pool in there. You go by this house on Rutland Road, at the back, Ely Agnes did what it was supposed to. You put one row of that, and I can tell you, you won't see that thing. And so I don't know why they didn't like Ely Agnes, but
But
I
if
would
you-
like
Let's,
that kind of thing.
if you could add a suggested plant material, I think that would be helpful. Okay, and we can see that before our next meeting, so, okay. All right, any other questions before we
Sorry.
move on? That's okay. Before we move on. All right, Robbie, you want to talk about the proposed ordinance and requirements for package sales? And I was going to say, just remind people tomorrow is election day. If you have not early voted, please go vote.
I was just going to, on the solar farm ordinance, it does require full opacity, which means you can't see through it.
Okay.
So that's in the ordinance, so it's full opacity.
As determined by,
It's under Wales, B and C.
Mhm.
You would need an inspection from our department, and then if they were not compliant within that 5-year time frame, we would
gotcha,
stop them until
that'll,
they were in compliance.
Okay, so going to the retail packaged liquor stores. This was addressed with council, a few weeks back. I think there were some questions. This has gone through several reiterations. Probably one of the most complex things is how someone is going to actually get a license. And that is under section 6-225. And Jessica and I have been looking at this a good bit, and we had initially one for each 5,000 residents. We looked at that and thought maybe we wanted to bump that down to one in every 4,000. We got about 16,000 residents. That would give us a total of 4. So that's up, that's a change that we
Okay.
made. And only one member of a family shall be entitled to a quota entry. One of the things that we were trying to think through is how many people is going to have a number in the barrel, so to speak. And you didn't want somebody who might have 20 family members getting 20 people in the barrel versus somebody might have 2 people who get 2 people in the barrel. So the idea is that when someone wants a quota application to get into the drawing, then we will cross-reference those applications. The applications will require you to put down everyone who is in the first degree of consanguinity. So that way you'll know, is there any brothers or sisters, and we can then ferret that out.
Or could you just require that any family member that lives within Tift County, you have to give their address, something like that?
But they may live in a different
Well, if they live
location.
outside Tift County, you're not eligible to apply for a license. If that's how I understood us discussing last time.
That's right. I mean,
Right.
so you're gonna have
So
to
you're saying-
verify that that you're a resident of the city of Tifton.
You can do that through tax.
But then how do you, maybe I'm not following you, Wes,
I'm just saying on your application, have the applicant list every family member
and their address.
and their home address if they live in Tifton.
Right.
Not if they live somewhere else.
True.
You list all applicants, all family members that live within Tifton.
So that's the idea of, trying to just limit one license per family. So the idea is that, by the end of the year, December 31, you have your quota application in. Then the quota drawing will be at the end of January, given, time for a review of the quota applications. if your number is drawn for the quota, then you go through the application process, making sure that you can comport with all the requirements of the application, residency requirements, whatever the case may be. And if you fulfill all the, qualifications for the application, then you'll be issued the retail package store license. That's how we see that process working. Now, you have so many, I think we give them a year. They got 1 year to get up and running. Let's say in year 2, you have someone who goes out of business in February. Well, then that means that there's going to be another quota available for someone in the city. The way I see that is that we would then advertise the availability of the quota, give the deadline in which to make your quota application, and then again go through the same process of drawing a number and see who gets that quota number. And then they go through the application process. That's, I mean, this has been kind of a difficult thing to think through. There's a lot of folks, I'm sure, that would like to have, a package store license. But this is the way that we felt like it would be as fair and equitable as possible to determine who is going to be the one that's going to be given those licenses, knowing that we want to limit the number of licenses. So that's what we came up with.
Let me ask a question that was asked about me. The transfer of a license is not
Allowed.
What if it's upon death of the applicant? Can they not pass it down to their, like a beneficiary or name a beneficiary of the applicant? For instance, in this example was to say, hey, listen, I owned the package store for 20 years and it's done very well for my family. It's been able to support my family. Something happens when you have a death, I die, or whatever. Now the source of income for the family may be at risk. How could they continue with the package sale, like if they were to leave it to the wife or something of that nature? I mean, that was kind of the question that was asked to me, which I told him, I was like, I don't know, I'll ask.
I mean, couldn't it just stay within the family? It's still one family. Why
You
would
could
we
name
not
a
let that happen?
beneficiary or a secondary beneficiary, almost like in the license. I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking of outside the box because that could happen.
I
And that
didn't
would be
think about
terrible if a family has invested several hundreds of thousands of dollars to get this project off the ground, and a car accident happens, then it's not even their fault, and the applicant passes away, and now the family member can't do anything. They can't obtain any funds back to themselves or whatever. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm just trying to think of, because I know if something like that happens, it's going to be brought in front of this council now. So since we have the ability to set the rules now, we should be thinking about
Sure,
that.
and that's exactly why we're bringing this before y'all,
Right.
to see if there's, issues that you have with it. Honestly, Wes, I hadn't even given that a thought until you just mentioned it. Certainly, I think that on any type of transferability, you're going to want to make sure whoever's going to be transferred, is going to be someone that's qualified, eligible, applicant. One of the things that we wanted to avoid was that if somebody gets a quota number, then they go out and try to sell it, which is what they do, I think, in Florida. So, I mean, I don't really have an issue with the idea that if you're looking at some type of, passing it, through the death of a family member, and then they can maintain that quota, that license, as long as they meet all the qualifications. I mean, I don't see it.
The way that your section 6-224 reads, it reads to me, and I'm not an attorney by any stretch, but it's as if it says no person or member of the family shall hold interest in more than one license. So if that family has that one license and there's a death in the family, the way that this reads, it looks like that says family shall be deemed to include any person related to the holder within the first degree. It looks like that could be transferred, but I may be misinterpreting what you're saying here.
I mean, we're not, when you talk about transfer being
Not-
somebody
Outside of your
family.
family.
Through the form
Yeah.
of selling the.
Yeah,
Right.
within a family, someone passes away, well, as long as another family member
As long as it
meets.
stays within that family is
Meets
what
the
that is how I
requirements.
read that.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of people that are interested in filling out an application, and
Sure.
before they go through that process, and there's gonna be a lot of due diligence on behalf of that applicant, they wanna know some questions, and they're having some questions, and of course, with me working at a bank, first thing they're gonna come to me and say, hey, listen, this happens, I'm interested in doing it, you know, what's the process, and what is this, and what is that, you know, and so,
But it
you know,
said-
I'm getting a lot of questions about it, and I don't know the answers.
It says no more than one license to engage in the sale of a retail packaged liquor at retail in the city shall be issued to any person which shall include all members of that person's family.
Okay.
Right.
So
But-
that's
Could be
the
covered.
B. That sounds like that's what's,
What that section is basically trying to prevent is more than one person in the family having
Right.
a license.
right,
I don't believe this really addresses, you know, what
okay.
Wes's issue is that if somebody has that license, can it be transferred to someone in the event of that person's death or disability?
Right,
I
so,
just want to say this, the way that, and I haven't seen anybody that sells liquor. I have a lot of sole proprietor, other business, but nobody that sells liquor is registered or licensed as a sole proprietor. So it's actually licensed to an LLC or corporation, and can be transferred when, you know, like maybe they're the CEO or they're the, I don't know a lot about corporations, but a corporation, say, you know, even Longhorn, you know,
Right.
their CEO or their
Gotcha.
manager and all that changes, you know, your licensee, you know, your corporation's the same, and I think that's what this would be.
gotcha.
It would apply the same way. You have, your corporation,
Yeah.
and then who's your applicant, that must be in Tifton, and blah, blah, blah. And
Right.
all of that stuff could possibly change, but that.
But the license stays the same.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right, and so that, you know, whoever's the membership in an LLC or the stockholders in a corporation, they would still have that interest, you know, in the license. And if somebody passes, usually that membership interest, that stock will pass to one of the family members.
All right, that makes
So you can explain that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually you have who
Right.
can
Yeah, okay, I got it.
Okay.
Yep, I'm good.
All right, good question.
All right, so that's generally how we see the quota system working. The distance requirements we've already discussed. That's basically in compliance with state law. And one of the things we did do, a lot of the stuff that was in our original, and I can't remember which one council reviewed, a lot of the stuff that was in our first draft really had a lot of the stuff that was already in our general alcohol ordinance, such as applications, investigations. So we just kind of let this ordinance, this section say, all that stuff in our general alcoholic stuff applies to this as well. So we were able to kind of narrow it down. We talked about the physical requirements, you know, for the premises. One of the things that Jessica and I had talked about, subsection C talks about a minimum floor space. And we have in here, 2,000 square feet. We were wondering whether or not we needed to bump that up a little bit, so we don't have small, we're looking at 3,000 square feet perhaps. Jessica, you might, as far as this floor space, I mean, customary, what is other folks, other cities?
everybody's kind of different.
Yeah.
But 2,000 would be an average convenience store. So if you want it, you know, it's kind of, we looked at one that recently just passed the city of Newnan, and they were 7,500.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, wow.
They only were looking for the big box
Uh-huh.
store. So it's just, you know, the quota, there's a lot of questions of the quota or the dealing with there is zoning, so that's another way we can look at, strengthening those zoning and making it.
And ours is limited to general business, is that correct?
We've got that now, GB and CD.
Commercial downtown?
And I know there was discussion about CD. It was my understanding that we thought that you all thought CD was okay. It's in there now for CD as well.
All right.
That's not really, I'm saying like the state law on between, the distance between a package store and another package store is 500, and that's what we
Right.
have right now.
Right.
Noon was, I think,
1,500.
1,500. So that just kind of makes it a little bit harder. And I'm proposing that, I don't have an estimate really, but to consider adding a distance from residential either way we go. There are just some areas that it may be problematic later on. Because there are some GB in neighborhood type areas where, the property directly behind. It doesn't have to be
Well, you've got the same,
very much.
yeah, you've got the same situation in commercial downtown, where you have residents scattered throughout the commercial
Yeah,
downtown.
Thomasville, for instance, has 50 feet.
Yeah,
Now, that doesn't seem like much, but that's just an example that Thomasville has 50 feet from residential. So it's done. And as Jessica said, I mean, we were looking at, the means by which to restrict the number of package stores. And, we talked about this on Friday. Do we do it by the quota system? Or do we try to do it by, zoning? And, to do it by zoning would be, looking at the zoning map, looking at your arterial streets, looking at where the residentials are, and then trying to say, okay, if we put these certain zoning restrictions on it, where can they be and where can't they be? I mean, that would be an exercise, but it would be an exercise. So that's just an option, just to let you know that if you're trying to control the number and the location, another option is zoning, but we'd really have to drill down on that to look at, where the residential is, arterial streets, and then.
do you all have a preference on distance from residential areas, as long as it meets that general business or commercial downtown zoning? You have to just,
It's general business or commercial downtown, what goes there?
yeah,
We had some discussion last meeting about detached and attached. Could they go, what did we end up going with? Either
Okay.
We have it as a,
Standalone.
standalone?
y'all said it was okay, so we can do that.
okay.
Okay.
So it is available to go in a strip? Okay.
It just has to meet the square foot minimum.
And the zoning and all that, yeah.
Well, right, that's all.
And Jeff, what we're saying about residential, I'm just gonna throw these areas out.
Sure.
12th Street, 10th Avenue, there's one off of, what's that road? 50 El Dorado Road, where there are GB areas where there's a South Main Street, there's GB on, a pretty main road, but directly behind it, you have somebody's house.
Right.
And so that, to me, is just something to consider. And it really, we had some issues on South Main when there were bars there, for the noise and the traffic and stuff like that. And it wouldn't, you couldn't be, the way Thomasville is from the back part, or the closest
Wall.
exterior wall to the property line. I'm not saying 500 yards or anything like that, but if you have a residential property that, abuts that commercial property.
What's the longest, distance that's in our current alcohol ordinance? Is it 100 foot?
It's, from churches and schools, I think it's 300 feet, isn't that right? 100 yards?
200 from a school or college game. I have them there, 100 yards.
200. Is it 200?
But that's from door to door, right? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Well, I think that maybe different,
I know, you know,
property line is on college campuses. I have to look at it.
that would mean, all right, so if it was a package store, let's just say if you're on 12th Street and you got First Methodist Church right there, it's still 300, I mean, no matter if it's a package store or beer, you know, convenience store that sells beer, the distance has to be met no matter what, right? Now, we're just talking about residential neighborhoods, no churches or schools or anything close by it, right?
Right, it's 100 yards from a church, 200 yards from school or college campus, 100 yards from an alcoholic treatment center, 500 yards from another package store. And then, do we want a distance from
That
residential?
would be Hardy, that would be Hardy.
No,
The way that it's written right now, the hardest thing, if you're in a very commercialized area, say Highway 82, and somebody wants to put theirs on this side of 82, and one wants to go 500 feet,
500 yards.
you know, 500 yards,
Yeah.
and that would, I think
It's
that's.
5 football fields.
Yeah,
but
it's pretty
on
good.
12th Street, I mean, part of that's neighborhood commercial, right?
Yeah, most
Would-
of 12, I'm thinking of Golf and 12, there's a GB property, that's a Fair Lake Road type neighborhood, I guess.
Okay.
You know, Fair Lake Road is another good example, so there's GB and directly behind it there
Yeah.
is, residential areas.
Yeah.
And, you know, if y'all are okay with package stores that are really on the side of a bar, our ordinance began when we had, we didn't allow bars. We only had allowed restaurants, so and I showed this to Rob, last week, where a lot of our ordinance, it says, distance requirements are not considered for consumption on premises. So that was probably fine when there was a restaurant, but there's a lot of difference.
Sure.
So in reality, a restaurant that sells alcohol could go beside the Methodist church. And, you know, it's just not,
Yeah.
it's something we need
Because,
to
you know,
consider for the
Methodist Church also
neighborhoods
does
and a
AA
bar.
meetings. They also do, Boy Scouts of America are there too, so the church does a lot of outreach outside of its Sunday, Wednesday, everyday services. Usually they have something to do with that.
I don't know
So,
the package store, but a
You know,
bar
that's what, you know, I got,
would get complaints a lot.
Well, 3,000 square foot, if you decide to do that, it's a pretty good
that's a
size.
pretty sizable.
So if you
place.
think of it, 3,000 square foot, it's gonna have to have exterior lighting, et cetera, so it has to be a pretty good sized footprint.
Sure.
So residentially, just we could copy the language from Thomasville, from the rear of the building to 100 yards, that's a long way.
100
So,
feet.
100 feet, you have all yards, so.
Why do we want,
Oh, I just put
why
a,
do we want 3,000 instead of 2,000? I mean, either we want liquor stores, okay. We decided to put out that
Yeah.
liquor, let's don't make it.
Yeah.
So
Where
difficult that we.
difficult, I mean, we can't have it both ways.
That's
We
what we're
want
saying.
liquor store, we said, if the people vote that we want liquor stores, and to put a 3,000
That's a lot of inventory.
Yeah, that's a big
that's,
add.
when all you can sell is liquor,
Yeah.
and these
yeah,
other
I
things.
think the ordinance still says, I made that mistake on that cover sheet.
That's
The
a lot
ordinance
of
says
inventory.
2,000.
2,000
4,
feet to me,
5
is that about what a convenience store does? I mean, that, what,
I'm
when you
okay
have
with
for- to me,
2,000.
that's 2,000 feet big, it's
Yeah.
for a minimum size.
That's more in line, if you do a 100-foot setback from the rear of the building, or if you wanna do 100 yards from the back of the building, that's gonna clear residential for
Yeah.
veterans.
I mean, I've got the situation with, food line and all of that. Well,
Right.
okay, it was general business when those houses were built, probably. Want to buy where it's already general business, and it's kind of what's gonna happen.
You
It's
understand that?
changing zoning that gives me the problem.
Right.
So,
100 foot?
100 foot.
From the rear, 2,000 square foot building?
Yes,
Good.
I
All
think,
right.
I think so.
Anything
Unless
else?
y'all have any other
That
comments to
sounds
add? You good? Okay. All right, any other questions or anything for package stores?
so I got operating hours. What are the operating hours for beer and wine, sales of beer and wine?
I think
Well, we
you
do
can
have
start
Sunday
at
sales
7.
for wine and beer.
So why would
Yeah, cause I mean, I
you,
guess,
beer and wine on Sunday afternoon, what's the, I just don't see it.
We didn't include that, it wasn't in our Sunday sales referendum.
not in our Sunday sales recommend. So that would have to be.
I mean, I'm
brought
not an
up.
attorney. Rob didn't ever add it. But we voted on Sunday sales.
Mine says 11.
Sunday sales are from 12:30 PM until 11:30 PM. And
So we'd have to do another referendum then to
I think so.
add Sunday sales of package stores. Okay, gotcha. I see what you're saying.
so package sales of malt beverages one is from 12:30 PM to 11:30 PM.
Okay. So
And
that
then-
referendum just applied to beer and wine sales, no package sales.
The same thing.
Okay. Well, let's start with this. I think
Yeah,
this is a very good
I
start.
was just
Yeah,
curious, because
yeah.
somebody will ask, what, you get beer and wine,
Right.
but you can't buy that.
That's right. That's because the voters approved beer and wine. We'd have to take it back to the voters to approve.
I agree, you have to realize, where I grew up,
Yeah,
anything can set it.
yeah.
So,
Outside of November, when's the next election?
Well, I mean, you
There'll
can
be
have
one
a
next
special
year.
election anytime. Usually
Yeah,
like
so
the next one, like the
anytime
March
we
or
do a
April.
special election, we could add that to.
No, I would say your next regular election. I mean, you're talking like 15,000. And I frequent Albany a lot, and they're not open on Sunday, and they have the ability.
Okay.
People, you know, a lot of places, unless they just want to be open all the time, like a day off.
Yeah. Okay.
We did add that you could sell lottery tickets.
I saw that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right, any other comments, questions, ideas?
No.
Package sales, we good? All right,
It's gotta pass first.
it's got to pass. We'll know tomorrow. That's exactly right.
For not.
This time tomorrow evening, we'll have an idea. Okay, moving right along, Pete, you want to talk to us about the urban redevelopment area and the opportunity in the enterprise zones?
I'm going to ask Crystal to come up and give a overview in your packet. She did prepare an executive summary. Jessica has worked very closely with enterprise zones, so collectively we're going to go over this together, try to do all three, because all three are now have, well, not URA, but we're talking about limits, and that's what we want to discuss with you tonight. So Crystal, go ahead.
Do y'all have a map that looks something like that? Jessica, do they have that in their packet?
Oh, yes, we do. We do.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I have hard copies. I just wanted to make sure that you were looking at what I was looking at. Okay, so DCA has written us and has informed us that our opportunity zone ends at the end of December this year. They are 10-year designations, and they are a great benefit to businesses that are located within opportunity zone. For every job that they create over 2, they can take advantage of a $3,500 tax credit each year. It's an absolutely great benefit, and now's the time for us to kind of hit the drawing board and look at our opportunity zone and look at maybe possible changes that we need to make to the opportunity zone. Back in 2011, when this opportunity zone was established, the criteria was much different than it is right now. We have an opportunity zone where there is about 1,100 parcels within it, so a very expansive, large area for an opportunity zone. The current commissioner for the Department of Community Affairs, they will only allow 200 parcels at this point, so we need to be looking at paring it down to about 1/5 of the size that it is right now. Before we submit an application. So this is one of those things where you don't just submit we want to re-up our opportunity zone. Thanks. It doesn't work like that. It is a completely new application. It is an opportunity for the city to kind of look and reflect at how successful their opportunity zone has been for the past 10 years and where you need to take this tool in order for it to be more effective. Right now, we have less than 5 businesses participating in the opportunity zone. Where it's located right now, there's not a whole lot of businesses that are bigger in nature. So we have a lot of boutiques, but they don't have a whole lot of employees. You may be looking at like 3 or 4 employees, and they don't take advantage of it. And I really feel like we need to look at the boundaries and potentially shift it to areas of town that really need some investment. So with Opportunity Zone, DCA really wants you to look at those areas of town that maybe that without this benefit might not redevelop. So it's one of those tools that we really have in our back pocket that we can really sell certain areas of town and kind of encourage people to redevelop properties and open your businesses and really think Tifton. So we have proposed, Pete, Jessica, and I met and laid out a proposed opportunity zone that I'd really like for you all to give some input on and see if you feel like it would be effective there. Now, we did count the parcels today, and it's about 250, so we'd have to scale it back by about 50 parcels. I don't think that's a problem at all. We'll just look at certain streets and kind of scale it back where necessary. So we're a little bit over right now, but we can definitely look at scaling it back. But this would include sites like Horizon Mills or Mayfield Dairy and all of Magnolia, right? A lot of those areas can really use the help. 82, we've got some areas on 82, and before you get to the Carlton Motel, there's a convenience store that's really run down. There is an old service station that has been boarded up for 2 years. Just a lot of areas that could really use some incentives for redevelopment, and that's why we're here. So we're going to have to go through, if it's your will, we will have to go through the application process and put together an argument. We're really going to have to sell to DCA that we really need these benefits. We really need to be able to encourage people to redevelop these properties and go through that process. So got to scale it back to about 1/5 of where it's at right now. And in your packets, you have the proposed boundaries, which would go from Virginia up to 2nd Street, back down through Town and Country. And I really think it's important that we include Town and Country. Right now, we know that it's a mobile home park, but we don't know where it might be at in 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, and it might be a really great opportunity for somebody later on. All of 82 down to 5th Street, or Central, sorry, and then up through Ridge and back on 3rd Street. So kind of a funky looking shape, but would include a lot of parcels that could use redevelopment.
Good. All right, Jessica, you want to take the enterprise zone next?
The enterprise zone is the one that has like the purple shade is what we're proposing. And it's more keeping that South Tipton redevelopment area in focus and stopping above right at 2nd Street. And enterprise, as Crystal stated, the opportunity is for the creation of jobs. So they have to have 5 or more jobs, where the enterprise could be, a business could get it for reinvesting in the property, or a homeowner could get it for single family or multifamily residential, where there are improvements also. So we've included some of the downtown and the South Tipton, but this area is based on our current enterprise zone map, and I've provided that in there. There is kind of 3 areas that was adopted over the years, and most of this is kind of like that Heights, South Tipton, the original enterprise zone. So scaling it down a bit.
And then thirdly is the URA, and when we started the URA, the limits were very, very widespread, and again, that map is part of your package. My job is going to be to address this with the URA board and to start paring this down to match closer to the enterprise zone and some of the opportunity zone, but the limits are just so far from in all directions on the URA. We've got to scale it down so we could get a better handle of it. It was very aggressive to start with, and I think it was good, but now we see the direction where the focus is. We'll address the boundaries with them, and obviously have a discussion and bring that back to you. So what we're wanting to know is, number one, are you interested in us reapplying for the opportunity zone for Tifton? That's something we want to do going forward.
Well, I know it's been very successful in the past, which was basically the downtown area, for lack of a better, just visual reference to the boundaries. Both the enterprise and the opportunity zones have allowed us to bring in businesses, and it made projects that might not have been exactly feasible, makes them more feasible, especially combined with any other incentives and historic tax credits, whatever they might be doing. So I would really like to see us move forward. One of the concerns I remember that we had in the past, now I know this is what we're talking about is just the definition of the boundary and what, in applying, then we have to receive it, obviously. We have to be granted that through the Department of Community Affairs. But I know that we had concern in the past where someone might be able to take advantage of the enterprise or opportunity zone, and they were given the incentives, but then if they went out of business, or if they changed the use of what they had submitted Plan A but went with Plan B, you know, and so the intent was not what was originally presented. Is there gonna be any kind of check and balance? And I may be getting way ahead of myself, but I know that's been a concern of this council in the past, so.
I think it's a valid point, and I believe we need to probably go into an annual or a biannual check
Just a review.
Yes,
Yeah.
on applicants and those that have received benefits. So we could make that part of our process to be
Okay.
the next step.
Is that for opportunity?
For both opportunity
And
and
enterprise.
enterprise zone.
Opportunity zone, the city only has one part in that, and that's a part to sign a form that they attach with their income tax. That goes to the state, and they get, based off the number of employees, they can get, was it $3,500 per employee? Off of their tax return. So that's the
Right.
only thing we do. So basically, usually around the end of the year, they come in and get that so they can file that with their taxes.
Gotcha,
and
okay,
that's-
so it's up to them to confirm that through their taxes.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the enterprise zone, when I came in here, nobody was following up with the tax assessors. But
Right.
yes, we, by March of every year, I send a report to
Okay.
the tax assessor's
Okay.
office. So that's that 10-year tax abatement.
Sure.
Is that what you're talking about?
Okay, I just wanna make sure, you know, if someone comes in and they're able, and we offer them whatever the incentives are that they qualify for, that's in it, and whatever they state is on their application. If they're coming in to put a restaurant, I'll just make up an example, and then we find out later, well, they didn't really open a restaurant, maybe they opened a convenience store. You know, just making sure that everything that was submitted to us is what they're moving forward with, so.
Yeah, so the incentives, now, a lot of that stuff is up front, because like your
Sure.
building and permit, when they go
Yeah.
to get the building permit or whatever, we usually write that off at.
Right, because, you know, we had a restaurant, an applicant that was gonna be a restaurant, well, they ended up being, a retail store. And we were all in favor of providing these incentives for this particular area because we felt the restaurant was an appropriate business. And then we find out, well, they're not a restaurant anymore, they're actually a retail store and a multifamily, you know, residential. So I just wanna make sure that we're, you know,
Yeah, we do send something to
Okay.
tax
But I
assessors.
really believe we need to clean it up. I think it's
Sure.
something valid, and Chris and I will talk about
Okay.
that. For the meeting for our application, if we'll redraw the boundaries for the opportunity zone and the enterprise zone, if you agree and you adopt that we could use, that's the first step that in our application. I really don't want it to lapse, but we'll have to make application.
Right.
If we could send it off in December, that'd be great. The enterprise zone stays in place. We could develop some other policies, and then the URA board, I will talk to them about the boundaries.
Okay.
So it's time to clean all this up again.
Yeah, because I really
it's,
think
part
that,
of
and I
our
know Johnny would second this, but, you know, making sure that our urban redevelopment area has as much as possible for incentive
Yes.
to attract business and
That's the way we-
quality business and quality development.
That's the way
So,
we really,
yes,
we designed it with that thought in mind.
yeah,
I remember early on when when I came on council, we had this big discussion, me, you, and John was part of that, about the central business district, having to, would we need to expand that to include these new areas? Because wasn't something that we had to include the area, or it wouldn't qualify?
I think that's a separate discussion. That was more the Main Street District and Central Business District and that kind of thing. What we're looking at doing, because these incentives have worked in that area, that area is up and running and the tax base is increased and the development that's taking place is there now. So, it's shifting it over to other areas that now need that
Right, that's what I'm
shopping
saying,
mall.
but we would
Yeah.
have to expand and identify what.
You're on point, so
Okay.
to have an opportunity zone, it actually has to be in your urban redevelopment area, which is why back in the day, which is why the area was expanded, so
That
that the
central
opportunity
business
zone
district.
area
Okay.
would be within it. So you are right that I do that, but there's nothing saying that you can't have more than one opportunity zone, maybe the highest 3. So they're just smaller areas now, and you can have more of them instead of one really big area. So if like the central business district, like downtown, commercial downtown, if you're interested in that, you could
but we are shifting some of the focus into the areas that are, blighted, that don't have any businesses activity.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's okay, we'll redraw that, we'll have that for the next meeting for you to take a look at, but
Okay.
I think it's very consistent, we're in lockstep here, we wanna continue to grow, it's a great program, and, I think if we do this right, it'll even add more emphasis to the areas that we need to start addressing.
Exactly. Okay, any other questions, comments for Crystal, Pete, Rob, Jessica, anybody? Y'all good? Okay. All right, let's move on to the next item on the agenda, update on the ARPA State Fiscal Recovery Fund application submittal. That's a mouthful.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. This is really for more information. There's no action that we have to take right now, but if you remember, we did talk about the 2021 priority project plan that we did a couple meetings ago, and the state actually came out with a fund application process, and they have a couple $1 billion from ARPA money that said, hey, any local governments that want to apply, if you're project ready, shovel ready, and you put up monies that you're going to put towards your plan, the state is going to allow a grant that they're going to allow you to apply for and actually request money in addition to what has already been given for infrastructure. So we did apply. It would be for the water system, sanitary sewer, stormwater, and GIS mapping. Again, our plan is done, so we're already in lockstep. We already committed just at $4 million from the ARPA money and from SPLOST money. So we have requested $3,770,000 from the state of Georgia to add to our infrastructure, bringing our, if we do get this, our funding up to $7.7 million for all our infrastructure projects, which would be pretty awesome. So it was very well written. That application is in. We've discussed that with the state folks that were receiving applications, and we're at 50% match, so our application is really, really strong, and I'm hoping that we'll get this funding.
When will that be awarded? Do you remember?
I would probably say, they just started their fiscal year. I would probably say in November, December.
So soon?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Okay, perfect. Okay, great.
So,
That's
I
good
just
to
wanna
know that
update
we
you.
did officially apply.
Yeah, if we do get that, obviously we'll have to take other actions, but I wanted to just explain to you what we're doing via the state, and again, there's no, we've done it all, and from what I understand, if you can't match monies and you do not have your plan in place, you will not get funded.
Right.
So we're way ahead of the game.
Okay, excellent. Good work on that. Very good work. Any other comments, questions concerning that plan that's been submitted? Okay. All right, thank you. Next, discussion and review of the mask requirements in city buildings. Pete, you want to?
Okay, yes, Mayor Council, we've been watching this very closely. We're keeping close statistics. Actually, Larry and Emily have documented for city employees, so our numbers are down. Obviously the course of immunizations are getting stronger, but with regards to us and city buildings, I wanted to ask if you had any appetite for removing the mask ordinance, watching it closely. In return, maybe putting up signs that saying that City of Tifton highly encourages, mask, if you wear a mask. So we're doing something, keeping our eye on it, just like we did last time. If we do have a spike, then I bring that back to you at that certain time, but I just want to ask your opinion.
Well, calling me back, I mean, we don't require masks, but we respect those who wear masks and who wear masks in our bank every day. So, I mean, I think that the city of Tifton could, have that same, respect, so to speak. I mean, I think that cases that went down, people are getting vaccinated, I guess. And, I think, the Grapevine put out I guess it was Thursday.
An update.
That cases are dwindling, so that's always a good thing for our, we were high at one point, we were at a scary level, but,
It's up to y'all. We're ready if you are.
I would agree with that, Wes. I think that, if you feel more comfortable wearing masks, you're certainly encouraged to do so, but the mandate within the city buildings. And that would apply also for our employees. If our employees feel better wearing a mask, that's certainly fine, but if, for any visitors, I'm okay removing the mandate and just saying, masks are encouraged, and continue to encourage people to be vaccinated, be smart with washing hands and distancing and things like that, but I would be in favor of removing the mandate.
And I would vote. It's still disturbing to see less than 40% people vaccinated in Tipp County. I don't understand it, never will understand it, I'll do my grave, I don't understand it. I have my booster, being of age that I can have a booster. And you see signs in Publix and the others, masks are required. And how intelligent people walk by another sign and then walk on that sign. So, without a mask, but, I like to put the sign out there, CDC recommends.
Do it.
If you want to be safe and protect other people, wear a mask.
Okay, we can do it.
Pretty simple. But as far as the mandate, I don't.
Okay,
All right.
good.
Do we need to vote on that, or that would just go into effect?
I think so.
That's what our ordinance, that's what I think.
Okay. Okay.
It says official action, whether we want to do it tonight or we want to do it at the next meeting.
Well, we can do it at the next meeting, so there's no confusion or anything, so that's fine. Okay, all right, any other comments concerning mask mandate for city buildings? Okay. All right, board report. Jessica, we just put 3 folks on there. All right, we'll come back to that at the next meeting. City manager report.
The only thing I have tonight, Mayor and Council, I wanted to alert you, we're watching closely, just like everything else, natural gas prices are alarmingly high, and it's because of a couple things, but right now it's close to 38% increase on natural gas. Obviously, the Gulf storms have contributed to that. The economies are opening back up. Liquid natural gas exports are at record highs, and then obviously the world demand for natural gas as an alternative fuel are starting to spike. So again, we're seeing the big interruptions with fossil fuels, but natural gas is just the same, but we are in for some very volatile pricing, and I wanted to share that with you. I don't have any specifics yet, but as soon as we turn the corner on some colder weather, we'll start examining what's called MCFs, or how they're charging us out of the pipeline.
What's the price? When you get the current pricing, what's the price?
Well, I don't know what we're currently paying. Just do you have any idea what
This time last year, we were about $6.37, or $8.40-something. It ended up being about 38% increase in a year's time. But the increase has been in the last few months.
Yeah, we're watching it very close.
Now, that's just the cost we pay, that's not, and that's per MCF, that's million cubic feet.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll watch it very closely. This is something that, I haven't had to report to you in the last couple of years, but again, with everything going up, we're going to watch it very closely.
Okay.
That's all I have for tonight.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll go through mayor and council comments, and then we will need to go into executive session for legal and personnel reasons. So does anyone want to kick off mayor and council comments? Okay.
Mine's a little different today. I just want to take note that one of my constituents and a friend at the city passed away back on October 23rd. Shirley Martin. She was 83. She lived in Omega her entire life till she moved to Tiffin in 2000. She was the first woman elected to the Omega City Council. She was the first woman mayor of Omega. I met her when she called and invited me to come to the Keep Tiff Beautiful meeting. I didn't know her came, and she was passionate about that. But her real passion is veterans. Jeff knows. I mean, she called me once, she called me 10 times about it, VFW and mowing the ditch and everything, and I confirmed to her not long before she passed that was on the list, that it was going to be mowed. Every however long. She pushed for that Veterans Park to be built. She still talked about that veterans last time we talked. You want to keep people away that aren't supposed to be there, you put mothballs around there. So she would get mothballs and go down there and put it, people wouldn't sleep there when all those mothballs were there. She was convinced of that. And the Veterans Museum, that was another one of her things. She called me to her house, and she had a bedroom that was wall to wall, floor to floor of memorabilia on veterans. I mean, she said that she was in tears. She needed, this was a couple of years ago, she wanted something done to expand the museum because she knew she wasn't going to be around, you know, she just didn't want to leave it to her children. She had a world of stuff, and I spent hours there. She paid for that, if you see there's a new VFW sign out front, she paid for that, had it done, and that kind of thing. And I'll miss her call. I called her, she ended up with cancer, decided not to have treatment. Her daughter lives next door, and Jeff and I talked with her out in the street probably a month, 6 weeks ago, and she's doing okay, we talked about it. But she didn't worry about her house and things around there. It was always somebody else. Something that what looked good to Tiffany. She'd call me about areas that needed to be mowed. Or she'd call me about vehicles that needed to be moved. Or this kind of thing. It was about making Tiffany better. It was never about something not being picked up at her house or anything else. And, so I called her about 2 weeks before she passed just to check on her. And she made me promise. She went through a list of made me promise the things I was to take care of once she was gone. Because she knew the time was short. So I promised her, so Jeff, I've got the list, and a lot of it's going to be right for you when I have to call you and say, Shirley's going to be watching, and we're going to take care of those things. But Tipton's lost a great citizen that was cared about the city, she cared about veterans, and keeping it beautiful. That just, she did it her entire life, and was instrumental in Omega and brought that passion to Tipton. She'll be missed.
Thank you, Jack, that's nice. Tribute. Johnny?
I'm good. Tomorrow is election day?
Yes.
Go. If you have mail, go.
Go vote, exactly.
Who do you vote for?
I
Hey, I'm trying to throw you a bone here, baby.
Goodness.
We appreciate it.
Yes, there you go. And I'd like to, in kind of the thought that Jack had concerning Miss Shirley, who was a very dear woman, and she will be missed, and she was very passionate about this community. Just like to recognize Dick Chalfont's passing. Dick Chalfont was a city council member. He was 92 years old and served this community very well. So we want to keep the Chalfont family in our thoughts and prayers. And then on a little more lighthearted note, I wish Abby were still here. Congratulate her on an extremely successful downtown event on Thursday evening of last week. I think it was a lot of fun, and I've never seen so many children in my life. I think they had a big time, and the city participated in that. So thank you to all the downtown merchants for being so generous, and to all those who came out and made a very fun event for our kids and our community. Wes?
I'm happy.
Okay.
We're good, we're happy, and I just want to reiterate the downtown Halloween trick-or-treating for Abby and the downtown merchants. It was really great. I mean, good to see all the kids dressed up and
Absolutely.
getting out and about, having look like a full-on Halloween.
They had fun. They had a big time.
Good time. And thanks to all the city for what they did to make it happen.
All right, thank you, MJ. All right, that concludes our meeting. I will need a motion to go into executive session for legal and personnel. All right, with MJ, is there a second? Thank you, Jack. All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, we'll take a quick break and then open our executive session meeting.